Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the spending tracker, which is step 4 of budgeting your best life. Now, the spending tracker is the really meaty bit, I think, and it's where you're going to write the most because this is your day-to-day living expenses. Now, when we finally get to talk about the budget tracker itself and the zero budgeting element, which is like the linchpin of this whole system, this will all start to make a lot more sense. But for now, I just want you to realise that you will have created or allocated a set amount for your living expenses. So you will have decided that you've got, in this case, I've put £1,000 that I've allocated for my spending money for the month. Now, what we'll have done is we'll have already taken into account the spending on the bills, and that was in the bill tracker. So this is totally separate spending. This is the spending that comes out of your bank account that you'd pay for on a switch card, or maybe even paying out elements of cash. So if you pay cash, you'd have to write it down on here. So this is all the other bits and pieces that come out of your bank account on a monthly basis. And why this system is unique is I've actually created some additional columns here, which basically categorizes the spending that you do. So in a normal situation, if you didn't have this, you'd just spend your money, you go into Sainsbury's, swipe your card, you go and buy a newspaper, pay for cash or swipe your card. You might pay car parking money, you might buy clothes, and you just keep spending out of your account. And you wouldn't really know how much you were spending until you got the statement, the bank statement at the end of the month and realised you'd gone overdrawn. Now, that's really no way to live. There's no control over that. You don't know what you're spending your money on. And that's why this system is really helpful, because it tells you exactly where you're spending your money. Now, okay, you might think, oh, crikey, this is really labour intensive. Why are we doing this? It actually doesn't take that long. It takes maybe 5 minutes a day just to have a quick look at your bank account. I've got it on my phone. I just quickly look at my bank account, see what I've spent the day before and write it down. And it literally takes minutes. You'll need a calculator as well, because what this does is it gives you a running total of what you've spent. So let's take it from the top. So first page of my spending tracker, I put the date that I've spent the money, and in this case we went to Aldi, so that was for food, shopping, groceries. So I put the amount I spent, £48.28, and put it in the grocery column. Then I write the total across on the far side and keep a running check of what I've spent. So the next day I've had a coffee with Jack, and I put that down to social spending. So £8.94 there, add that onto the previous £48.28 I've spent. So in total this month so far, I spent £57.22, and so it goes on. So I keep a running total, and you can see here I've made some mistakes as I've gone on. And the only reason I noticed I'd made a mistake is because the totals at the bottom didn't add across properly. So again, you've got a cross check here. If you've made a mistake somewhere, you can work out where you've made that mistake. So I've not written the whole page because it would take forever to do it. So this is just for demonstration purposes only. So I've just put some arrows here and I've added up each column. So when I get to the end of this page, I'll add up how much I've spent on groceries, I'll add up how much I've spent on household, what I've spent on personal, social, transport, and if there's anything else that doesn't really fit into any of those categories, I'd put it in other, and then I'd give myself a total. Then I'd move on to the next page and work through the months. Now, I've actually included 5 pages for spending, which is probably too much, but I thought I'd err on the side of caution and put 5 pages in. So the 5th page is this one, and it's slightly different because it has a grand total at the bottom. I'll explain that in a minute. But whenever you move on to the next page of the spending tracker, you've got to add up what you spent on the previous page and carry forward those totals. So that's what I've done here. So you'll see in the first column I spent £72.89 on this page. So I've brought forward the balance on this next page, and then I'll carry on totaling up. Now, I've not done it in this bit because well, I should have done, but I didn't. So you'll need to do that. You'll need to total up each column as you go along. Keep a running total of what you spent as you go through the month. Now, one thing to mention here is you'll notice here I've got a little adjustment. And the reason for that is I ended up putting a deposit on a holiday that I'm going to have later on in the year. And I had to put a £99 deposit down. Because it doesn't fit into any of those other categories, I've put it in the other column and included it in my spending. But really, because I've set a savings pot up for my holiday expenses, and we'll talk about savings pots in a later video, but because I've already got the money elsewhere, I'm going to adjust it back out of my spending money, because what I'm actually going to end up doing is transferring some money from my savings account back into my current account. So effectively, that cost is going out, and then I'm refunding this particular account. I don't want to overcomplicate this. All I'm trying to say is I've allowed myself £1,000 for day-to-day spending. That amount isn't a normal day-to-day spending. It's just an amount that's gone out of my bank account. So I'm reflecting it in this tracker, but I'm refunding myself as well, just so that I can see that £99 went out, but I've refunded myself with a savings account elsewhere. So you can either ignore it totally or just show it there like I have done. So all I'm trying to do here is make sure I stay within my £1,000. And the way I can check that I'm keeping within that £1,000 limit I've set myself is to keep an eye on this running total. And that's why I've put the running total in, because as you proceed through the month, you continue to spend money, you can see whether you're getting close. Now, obviously, I'm not right on the £1,000. I've got a little bit of manoeuvre there, so there's £100 odd left of my budget. Now, it might be that I get to the end of the month and I've only spent the 883.91. My actual intended amount to spend was £1,000, so I've actually spent less. I've spent £116 less. Now, all that means is that there should be £116.9p sitting in my bank account that I've not spent. Which is great, because I can either move that to a savings account or just leave it in my bank account as a little bit of a buffer for next month. Either way, a zero budgeting system is going to be controlling my budget system, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later on. But suffice to say, for the spending tracker, basically all you're doing is analysing your living expenses every month. So you can see where you're spending your money. You can see whether you're spending too much on coffees and going out, or whether you're spending lots on food and perhaps need to look at ways of cutting back there. But as long as you stay within your allocated amount, it doesn't really matter. That's part of this, is what controls this system. You're staying within an allocated amount, and as long as you stay within that, you're fine. If you start going over that, that's when you have a problem. So that's what the spending tracker is all about.